Dan Ullman, Mike Beer, two stakes races at Belmont Park on Sunday, including race number 9. This is the license fee stakes. Fillies and Mares going 3/4 of a mile on the Widener turf. $150,000 is the purse. Let's take a look at this field. And our morning line favorite is on the far outside. That's the number 10, Star Divine, who ran very well in her seasonal debut, Mike, the Giants Causeway Stakes. She ran third that day. She earned a big figure at Aqueduct going 3/4 of a mile in her final start as a 4-year-old. She has a lot of credentials.
Yeah, overall, her form's just really solid. I mean, the final start last year when she won the Autumn Days, that's the one I think that probably makes her the favorite in here, Dan. And she did run well off the layoff last time. But overall, it just feels like she's really solid and consistent and has really good tactical speed, and all those things sort of conspire to maybe just make her the horse to beat here.
One of the major keys to this race is whether the number 9 U-Gerry will be able to successfully transfer her speed and ability from dirt to turf. Timeform US believes she's the fastest out of the gate, and I tend to agree. Timeform US also believes this pace could be fast, and maybe that'll work against U-Gerry, but she's a great stakes winning talent on dirt, and I think she's found her niche sprinting.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, certainly the shorter distances really work for her. Whether or not she's going to ultimately wind up being a turf horse, I guess that remains to be seen. She has a little bit of pedigree behind her that suggests that she can handle it. And if she brings her speed over to this race, I suppose she could make the lead and be dangerous.
The number 1, Spun Glass, is a multiple stakes winner against Restricted Company. Maybe held up behind a slow pace last time out at Aqueduct when finishing behind Going Good. Came with a little bit of a run. She is an honest horse, breaking from the rail. She's going to need some pace, which she should get, and now she'll need a trip. At a big price, I could maybe see her, squeaking into the exotics.
Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe mostly just based off the last one too, Dan, because that was a race that they really didn't have much pace. She came from last and almost got third in there. It was not a poor performance at all. This is still a tough spot for her.
The number 2, Poppy Flower, had a very good season last year for Bill Mott, winning a stakes race at Laurel, winning a stakes race at Saratoga. That Galway was a nice in-out closers trip. Jose Ortiz was aboard that day. He'll be back aboard on Sunday. And she got a decent prep in that race against Going Good, trying to rally from out of it. She ran an okay third. I can see her because she's been solid for a long time.
Yeah, she has. Especially liked her last year, Dan. It feels like she sort of reinvented herself as a closing sprinter for Bill Mott, because she had a lot of speed as a 2-year-old, and they totally changed it up last year. And I liked every one of her turf starts last year. She was in that allowance last time. It kind of felt like a prep. They were not aggressive with her at all, and didn't even really try to get all in with her through the stretch there. There was no pace for her to run at. She finished an okay third.
The one-time Messidor, the number 3, went route to sprint in North America. She rallied from off the pace to win. She's going to try to repeat that pattern in the first start off the layoff for trainer Christophe Clement, and it looks like she'll get some pace to attack.
She's going to need pace because she's a horse who I don't think has a lot of speed, especially going these shorter distances. I do think she fits here with her good race, though, Dad. She's pretty talented, and she's won races. So she's gotten over here from England. She's run races at 6, 7, and 8 furlongs. So she's versatile enough to come back off the layoff and run a good race here.
And the number 4, Milan, won her North American debut when trained by Chad Brown. It came over this course at this distance. She's winless since. She's now with Brendan Walsh. Last time out in the Giants Causeway, going 5.5 furlongs, she was just out sprinted early. She was last on the inside. Just didn't make up a lot of late ground, but maybe she's slowly racing herself back into shape. Third start of the form cycle, another closer that needs some help up front.
She's going to need a trip, and she's going to need some pace. I think the argument for her coming into this race, Dan, is after the really long layoff, she ran fine at Gulfstream in her first start back, a race that was dominated up front. And she actually did make up a lot of ground in that race last time, bumped between horses really hard at the start, wound up last, and actually was gaining towards the end there, but it was way too late. I kind of feel like 5 and 5.5 furlong sprints are too short for her. I like this 6 furlong distance for her. She's third off the layoff now. And I don't think she's necessarily in over her head here at a big price, but she's going to need some help.
The number 5 is Going Good, and she had a very good trip last time out when being a couple of these in a high-level allowance race, going 3/4 of a mile at Aqueduct. The pace was not fast in this short field. Manny Franco parked Going Good right off the flank of the pace setter. They got the jump on the closers, turning into the stretch, and she is gone. The question in this race against tougher competition is whether she can stay close to a faster pace and still finish with some verve.
Yeah, that was the right spot for her there, Dan, because the pace just wasn't fast. She was catching some horses off the layoff there that finished behind her, and she just had a perfect trip and got the job done. It was another rock solid performance for her. You have to like her running style and the fact that she always shows up. She's another one. She is not in over her head in this race, and she could easily run well again at what might be a fair price.
Big price expected on the 6. Imagery, who was claimed for $50,000 4 starts back, was sent down to a Gulfstream Park where she sprinted going 5/8 of a mile. And I wonder if that 5/8 is a little bit sharp. I think 6 is okay for her. There are some class questions she must address.
Yeah, I sort of looked at it the same way. I do feel like maybe 6 furlongs could wind up being just a better distance for her. Even if that is the case, though, Dan, is she good enough to beat this field? I suspect that she's not.
Hot Fudge hasn't raced on turf in a long time, but her last race on the lawn was a stakes place performance in the Stewart Manor at Belmont over the inner turf, going 3/4 of a mile way back in 2021. And we see Hot Fudge rallying from out of it. She's down towards the inside. She's going to make this very close at the end. Now, unfortunately, after this race, she missed about a year and a half. She's come back in very good form for Linda Rice, winning 2 of 3 on the dirt. I don't think she's out of it on grass.
I don't either. I think she's a really interesting horse in this race at a big price. We'll see what happens when they come back to turf with her now, because that was a good performance the last time she was on it, as long ago as it was. Even her career debut, Dan, a race that may not look that great. She was super green in that race and showed some talent. And I think she's proven to be good since then.
Bubble Rock, the number 8, is a graded stakes winner going 3/4 of a mile on the inner at Belmont. She won the Matron as a 2-year-old back in 2021, and now she's going to get an opportunity to turn back in distance. She's shown a lot of speed in middle distance races. She actually won the Grade 2 Mrs. Revere in her final start at 3. This was her seasonal debut going a mile at Keeneland. She went to the front. She shook loose. She's going to get run down late. It was a good performance for Bubble Rock. What do you make of her cutting back in distance, Mike? She has shown the ability to rate and finish in the past.
Yeah, I actually don't mind her cutting back in distance. I wonder if ultimately it might not be the right thing to do. We'll see what happens. She's another horse, though, that just to me makes this race super interesting, because I think she can handle the cutback. She is good enough on her best day to be really tough in a race like this. As you've already mentioned, she has speed, but she doesn't need the lead. She can sit off it just a little bit. I can't say I've ever been her biggest fan, but I don't mind her cutting back at all.
The 9 U-Gerry ran very well in her first 2 starts at dirt this campaign. They tried her in a Grade 1 stakes race against Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint winner Goodnight Olive. She got caught up in an early pace duel with another Grade 1 winner, Society, and she paid the price. Interesting spot here that they're going to try her on turf. She worked very slowly on the grass at Keeneland.
I noticed that slow work. I wonder what that's all about. She does have a little turf pedigree, though, Dan. Her dam was a stakes winner on the grass. Her second dam is a sister to a Grade 1 winner on the grass. There's turf pedigree here. She's wicked fast. I like this distance for her. She's not really my kind of horse unless she's going to be some kind of really big price. But I think she's talented. I'm a big fan of this filly.
Star Divine finished 3rd in the Giants Causeway. That was her first start of the year. She ran into a talented runner named Twilight Gleaming that day. You can argue she can build off that race. She earned a big figure 2 starts back on a good turf course, and there's a good chance that the turf at Belmont will have a little bit of give to it. How much does this outside post work against her, if at all?
I don't know that it does, just because she's such a handy horse. She had the far outside post last time at Keeneland, too, going even shorter, Dan, and the trip was fine for her. She was just second best in there. The only thing you have to be careful with horses like her is she's got that big figure last November, at the end of November at Ackwick. Those, you got to be careful with those races, because the turf courses are never firm at that time, and some horses really like it, some horses really hate it. She really liked it, obviously, but her overall form is good. I can't knock her. I think she's the horse to beat in here. I think she should be favored. She's just another one I'd be a little bit hesitant to take too short a price on.
Top pick time for the license fee at Belmont on Sunday. Mike's going with Manon. I want to use her at a price as well, coming from way off of the pace. We respect the morning line favorite, Star Divine. You're going to go with Manon, Mike. I think this distance is very good for her.
Yeah, I do too. I just want to give her one more, Dan. I still, maybe it's time for me to get off this, but I still remember her stateside debut when they went this distance here at Belmont. She was super that day, and they tried to stretch her out after that. She doesn't want to go long. These 6 furlong races are the right races to run her in. We'll see if she's good enough.
Usually don't like horses stepping up in class off of good trips. Going Good should be a decent price in here. She's 6-1 on the morning line. She's been very consistent throughout her career. 4-10-2-7 for Mike, 5-10-4-3 for me. It's the license fee, one of two stakes at Belmont on Sunday. Best of luck.